First District Democrats are far from decided on a nominee to challenge incumbent Republican Congressman Rick Crawford, and they're pretty undecided about Crawford in general. From our latest Talk Business Hendrix College poll conducted on Tuesday and Wednesday, April 24th and 25th of this last week, 497 likely Democratic primary voters in Arkansas's 1st Congressional District offered their opinions on party candidates and on Crawford. Our first question, there are 3 Democratic candidates for the 1st District congressional seat, Scott Ellington, Clark Hall, and Gary Latonich. If the election were today, for whom would you vote? 15% Scott Ellington, 10% Clark Hall, 3.5% Gary Latonich, and 71.5% undecided. We also asked 1st District Democrats about the job performance of current Congressman Rick Crawford. Much like Democratic Congressman Mike Ross's numbers with GOP voters in the 4th, Crawford is not overwhelmingly disapproved. Do you approve or disapprove of the job current Congressman Rick Crawford is doing? 26% approve, 28% disapprove, 46% no opinion. We asked these Democratic primary voters about their support for Barack Obama and his challenger, John Wolf. Yes, that's right. The president has a primary challenger in Arkansas. If the election were today, for whom would you vote? 65% Barack Obama, 24% John Wolf, 11% undecided. We also asked about the recent controversy over the Warren Buffett rule, which has been a hot topic in the 1st District for GOP Congressman Rick Crawford and Democratic Senator Mark Pryor. Would you support the Buffett rule becoming law? 52% said yes, 29% no, 20% said they don't know. And you've heard a lot over the years about Democrats in Arkansas, blue dogs and yellow dogs, for example. Well, we asked Democrats in the 1st District poll to tell us, how would you describe your political leanings? 22.5% said they considered themselves liberal or progressive, 40.5% conservative, and 37% moderate. I caught up earlier with Michael Cook, our progressive blogger at talkbusiness.net, for his take on the latest from these Democratic voters. All right, Michael, let's begin with the head-to-head matchups in the 1st District Democratic congressional primary. We got Scott Ellington, 15%, Clark Hall, 10%, Gary Latonich, 3.5%. And then the runaway frontrunner is undecided at 71.5%. Not a surprise, is it?
No surprise. Well, because nobody knows who any of these candidates are. None of them have run congressional district-wide. Clark Hall is a state rep, so he's known in his little part of the world. And Scott Ellington is a prosecuting attorney, and he's known up in kind of the Jonesboro area. But for the most part, nobody knows any of these candidates. So this race is wide open, and it's anybody's ball game.
So what has to happen between now and Election Day? I mean, we're less than a month away. None of these candidates have tremendous amounts of money. How are they going to break through and move some of these undecided voters?
Whatever money they have, they're going to have to spend it very quickly, whether it be on television, radio ads, or in the mail, because they've got to get known by these primary voters. Right now, Clark Hall is leading the way in terms of fundraising, far and away. I forget the exact numbers, but he had a significant report last month. It was the surprise last time was Scott Ellington in terms of how little money he raised. He was in the race about a month, but still just has not put the resources together. Of course, maybe he's turned the ship around and starting to raise money. But again, the bottom line is they need to start getting on TV, whether in the Jonesboro market or maybe in the Little Rock market, to get some of those votes out in the western part of the district. But it does come down to money. But if nobody has any money, then it's got to be good old-fashioned shoe leather.
All right, we asked Democratic voters what they thought of Republican Congressman Rick Crawford. This is much like we asked 4th District Republican voters a week ago about Democratic Congressman Mike Ross. Democratic voters in the 1st District fairly evenly split in terms of their job approval rating of Rick Crawford, and almost half don't even know him.
Rick Crawford has done just a terrible job of getting to know, or having the district getting to know him. As that poll shows, Democrats just don't know anything about him. They don't know enough to like him or dislike him, which means that whoever the nominee is can really start defining him and painting a picture of why they think Rick Crawford deserves to be fired. He's done a horrible job as an incumbent of keeping up with the district and defining himself. I think he's really ripe to get beat this time.
Well, he does have significantly more money than the others.
He does have more money, but at the end of the day, whoever the nominee is, I think this is one of those races that the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee in Washington feels like they can take back. So I don't think money's going to be an issue because I think the Democratic nominee, whoever that is going to have the funds.
The DCCC that you mentioned will probably like these next numbers quite a bit. It shows that President Barack Obama does pretty well with Democratic voters in the first, although there's still a sizable protest vote there. You got 65% support Obama, 24% for John Wolf. What do you think of those numbers?
Actually, I think those numbers are not good for Barack Obama in general. The fact that almost 25% of Democratic primary voters in the first district are going to vote. They don't know who John Wolf is. Nobody knows who he is. But the fact that they don't want to support him, that's not good. Of course, he's still getting 65% of the vote. That's a problem for Barack Obama. Obviously, he's not going to win Arkansas. He sure is not going to carry the first district. But that, even among Democratic primary voters, that is very telling.
We asked Democratic primary voters in the district, too, because we've heard over the years the label the blue dog Democrats, yellow dog Democrats. We kind of asked them to define themselves, Michael. How do you think your political leanings are? We got 22% liberal progressive, 40% conservative, 37% moderate. Does that kind of fall in line with what you'd expect?
That pretty much falls in line with just about all over Arkansas when it comes to Democratic primary voters. They tend to skew moderate to conservative. It's historically been that way because Arkansas Democrats as a whole are a moderate to conservative bunch. So it's not surprising. In fact, I think the other congressional districts will probably be the same.
We put the same question we asked 4th District Republican voters into the 1st District Democrats. What do you think of the Buffett rule, which would raise taxes on millionaires? This is an issue that has some ramifications for Mark Pryor. It has some ramifications for Rick Crawford. And we found some really distinct differences between Democratic voters and Republicans. Democrats think this is a good idea, unlike Republicans.
They did. 52%, I believe, said they supported the idea, but it wasn't actually as high as I thought it would be among Democratic primary voters. But it's still a majority of Democratic primary voters do believe that having millionaires paying the same taxes as the middle class is probably the right thing to do.
What do you think this may portend? Is this problematic for Mark Pryor? Is it a positive for Rick Crawford? I mean, one's cast a vote on the topic, the other has a proposal related to it.
Well, I think for Mark Pryor, it's his election is so far away, it's not really relevant. There's so much that's going to happen between now and November of 2014 that this issue goes away. For Rick Crawford, he went back, as you remember, last month. He actually proposed a tax increase on millionaires, thereby breaking his pledge to not raise taxes. So it's problematic because it does keep the issue alive that can remind voters that Rick Crawford you can't trust him because he'll break his word at the drop of a hat.